If you understand the person you work with, it will help you understand what kind of approach would work best when you have to make certain decisions. And by understanding that, it also helped me approach that person with the idea of let's build a food safety culture together. And if culture is doing the right thing, even no one is watching, then they would not need a QA personnel to do the right thing because they understand the why.
You're listening to Food Tech Talk, Supply Chain Insights from Farm to Fork, a podcast discussing the latest trends and technologies in the food and supplements industries, brought to you by Trustwell, featuring conversations with regulatory experts, quality and safety champions, and thought leaders across the industry. I'm your host, Lydia Adams, VP of Marketing at Trustwell. If you're loving the conversation, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned to the end of the episode where you'll hear our guests tell us their key food industry predictions for 2025. All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to another episode of Food Tech Talk, Supply Chain Insights from Farm to Fork. Today, we're delighted to welcome Dom Mitial. Dom is a highly experienced food safety leader with over 15 years in the industry, specializing in food safety management, quality assurance, regulatory compliance, and R&D in food manufacturing. As the Vice President of Food Safety, Quality, and Regulatory at Goldbergs Group, he oversees safety and compliance across multiple business divisions, from restaurants to manufacturing plants and airline catering. Dom's expertise extends across FDA, USDA, and GFSI standards, and he's known for his ability to bridge the gap between food safety and business leadership. His passion for continuous improvement and cross-functional collaboration has made him a key driver of food safety excellence in the industry today. Welcome to the show, Dom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lydia. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So I love to ask this question of guests just to kind of kick us off. What really inspired you to pursue a career in food safety and quality assurance in the first place?
As you can hear it, English is my last language. I'm still trying to learn it. I'm from Haiti and grew up in Dominican Republic. So which means went to high school in French and then do college in Spanish. With that said, I didn't have much a choice because as a Haitian son, they wanted me to be either a doctor, lawyer, those non-career back in the day. But me, I didn't want to be none of this. I want to do something more different. And that's how doing my research for college, end up with facing food science, which I fall in love with it immediately. And that's what I went to school for and did my bachelor. And then from there, I decided to go in the food safety field.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, that kind of like food science to food safety, right? So yeah. Is there really a defining moment in your career that has shaped your leadership approach? Because I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yes, most definitely. Because, as any professional, you start your career at the bottom as either a tech or a lab tech. From there, you see how management, what you're happy with, what you're not happy with. And you start thinking, the day I become a manager, this is who I want to be. This is how I want to be. And I think from there, I start thinking, who would I want to be when I become in a leadership position?
Yeah, no, that's the best way to learn is kind of seeing what you want to emulate, what you don't necessarily want to choose to be in terms of a leader, right? So, let's kind of talk about food safety as it relates to balancing business objectives. A lot of food safety professionals feel like they obviously have important job of compliance, quality, and all of those things. And then they're also, trying to, at the same time, grow a business, and they have objectives coming from other areas. So, how have you in the past navigated this balance in terms of creating quality and at the same time, growth?
Yes, food safety play big roles, like you say, because it's a cross responsibility where you have to work with different departments, and therefore it's extremely important to understand all the department goals, so you can work not only to ensure food is safe, they meet quality standard, but also work with the other departments so you're not delaying their process or you're not affecting productivity by applying food safety regulations. So that's where it starts. Back in the day, food safety used to be an isolated department where all they focus on is just food safety and regulatory requirement. But with time, When you go in your career, you will understand that it cannot be the fact that you touch every single department. You touch procurement, you touch R&D, you touch any department that you could name it, you touch it. Therefore, by creating a relationship with those head of department, you will understand their goals. And based on their goals, you can work with them by creating that kind of bonds with the between department, and you can not only help them with their goals, but also they will help you meet your requirement from a food safety standpoint as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's true. It's all about kind of building those relationships. Can you think of a specific scenario where you've really had to lean into that relationship building to kind of to get your point across from a quality perspective? Looking to improve your supply chain? At Trustwell, we've been connecting the dots between the food industry and data for over 40 years to give you more control and visibility across the full supply chain. Our comprehensive food logic platform and our new Genesis Foods set a new standard for compliance, transparency, and quality across the food industry. Request a demo today. The link is in the show notes, or visit us at trustwell.com.
Well, there's several, but I'll stay to this one. Chefs in the industry, they are well known to be kind of very proud of themselves, right? Chefs, they usually think that they know more than anyone else because they are the artists, right? And when it's time for you to make a food safety decision where you have a chef to apply this decision, that's where it becomes a challenge. And for you to get it accomplished, so that's when I have to find a way to work with the chef prior to require that decision, make sure that we have that kind of work relationship and understand that I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only here to help you apply the rules, if that makes sense. Because the rules is the rules. If we don't do it, we'll have to cancel whatever we already did so we can comply with the rules. But if I make you understand that this is the rules, do you want me to help you apply it? Then it sounds more like, okay, you are still in control. I'm just here to help.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a winning approach for sure. And so, what about senior leadership? Like an executive team or senior buy in? What types of tactics or strategies have you used to really get them on board with quality in the past as well?
Well, for senior leadership, it's more, they don't want the small details. They just want to see productivity. And most of the time, that's the main things they concern about because they have a full team to work on the day-to-day operations. Productivity, that's the thing that they focus on. Before you come to tell them about HACCP, about SQF, about any other things that you want to talk about, you just have to make sure that you do your due diligence so you can show them the return on investment. That's the most important. So once you are able to show them the return on investment, then it will make it easier for them to get on board with the decision.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Sort of taking your information and applying it to that audience that you're trying to explain, right? So, yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about competing priorities because I think in any business, there's going to be competing priorities. How do you make sure that safety, food safety, and quality is a top priority for everybody?
It's all about culture. If I take myself as an example, whenever I start in a job, I make sure I understand the person that I work. So if you understand the person you work with, it will help you understand what kind of approach would work best when you have to make certain decisions. And by understanding that, it also helped me approach that person with the idea, let's build a food safety culture together. If culture is doing the right thing, even no one is watching, then they would not need a QA personnel to do the right thing because they understand the why. And I think that's the most important thing for me to understand priority. If I go by an example, like we have to deliver a product on Friday. Any deviation, we have to tell the head of production or the plant manager, we can't ship that product because of X reason. The priority should have been that customer that we need to give that product. But what would happen if I give that product to the customer? Something will happen because it doesn't meet the specification. And I think that's the approach it's always important to do with the in a situation like this. And by saying that, okay, we can ship the product, but they will return it because it doesn't meet the spec, then we will lose the shipment, we will lose the money, and we'll have to recall that product. Which direction do you want to go? And at the end of the day, they will always be the one making the final decision because they will understand which one become the priority.
But laying out the scenario of like, this is what happens if we don't follow my advice. It probably usually works to have people say, okay, let's go ahead and follow his advice, right?
That's correct. Because leaders, I mean, not in this industry, they tend to like, okay, I know how to produce the meal. So why would you come and tell me what to do? So that's why whenever you take the approach of not telling no one what to do, but telling them the reason why, it make it easier to get things accomplished.
Yeah, I really love that. And then that's where you get that relationship, that buy-in, because you're all kind of going towards that same goal of the why. So it's easier than just, hey, I need you to do this over here. Let's talk a little bit about regulations because there's part of that, right? That you're complying with regulations, you're also working within, your business. So what have you learned in just managing that balance of, making sure something's compliant, also making sure that it goes with the quality standards that you have in house?
I will start by saying you must know your regulations. That's the first thing. If you know the regulations, and that's why you need to start because your product might taste good, but if that doesn't meet the regulations, then you shouldn't send that product to the market. And that's why I say, like my compliance department, I will make sure that we create always that structure where compliance have to sign off on anything before we send it on in production after R&D because we have to meet regulations first. Either you call it FSIS, SQF, or anything that have to do with the GFSI scheme. So we make sure that we have a full department of compliance because to your point, sometimes there's that cross function between quality and regulations. And when you have the same person doing both, there's going to be a disbalance because they're going to lean either in quality more or in compliance more. That's why I've always loved that structure of having a compliance department, which is separate from quality, that they are kind of like the officer for quality and for everybody else. So when quality say, hey, this product is good to me, then you will have compliance that will be there. Say, hey, did we declare the allergen properly? Or the labels are being done properly? So they kind of inspect after what everybody else is doing. I think that's a structure that always worked for me. And I would suggest that let's try to divide the tax so we don't have conflict of interest.
Yeah, no, that's a really great suggestion. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about leadership because, we've talked a lot about cross-functional collaboration. How do you, ensure that you are the type of leader that you said at the beginning you wanted to be? And then how do you lead your food safety teams for excellence?
Goldbergs Group, right now, I would say we have like 6, almost 7 facilities we are directing. And from there, you have different level of leadership in our team. And for you to work with people, sometimes that might even know more than you do. So you have to find a balance on how to lead. And for me, it's been a challenge in the past because I used to be a very transactional person because back in the day, you could call when you say perfectionism, you would sit down immediately. That used to be me because I thought in life, the fact that I'm come from a very limited resources country, and I always think that the best way for me to stand out is by doing the perfect things. Whatever I'm doing, I try to be perfect at it. And when I grew up in my professional career, I understand, no, perfection is not always the case. You just got to be authentic and instead of being transactional, be transformational. So instead of me being transactional with my team, with my leaders, I try to transform instead. And not only transforming, but also let them own whatever they're responsible for. I lead, but you own your project, you own your area. And by doing that, I've seen a shift in my team where we grow more as a team and we become We obtained the best score we ever had. Our KPIs are being met like ever before. And since then, that's why I said no more transaction on anything we are doing. Let's do it more transformational. Like by training, by giving you the tools that you need, by giving you a voice. And basically that's why I lead my team. Because right now, if I see I have a very large amount, over 60 of and over in my team, and from there you have directors, you have all kind of leaders. If it's not that way, you're not going to have a good retention. And in this industry, retention is key. If you keep having turnovers on your leaders in your leadership, then you're always going to start over and start over. And that's why I use transformational.
Yeah, I love that approach, and I think just seeing that authenticity as the alternative to perfectionism is a really great way to look at it, because I do feel like a lot of leaders, and especially in this space, feel like they have to be perfect. And it doesn't, I mean, no one can be perfect, right? So it's helpful to think of it in those terms. So that's great, excellent advice. So thank you for that. You know, there was something in your past work experience I wanted to really dive into, which is airline catering. I feel like it's sort of this like niche industry within a larger industry, and I was wondering what you've seen as particular challenges or anything unique about food safety in airline catering.
It's a different world. It's a different world. And at the same time, I'm happy to land in flight catering because if you are aware of, HACCP come to light because of NASA, so which is similar to airline catering, right? Because once that food get in the air, so whatever happened there will stay there, and there's a lot of risk, right? And that's the way I love to put it. When you work in a manufacturing facility, you produce something. Sometimes you have 3 months shelf life, 6 months shelf life, a year shelf life. So you have time to react to that product. But in airline catering, you only have 24 hours because whatever you produce, it will end up at several airplanes. So how would you recall a product that is 4,000 feet in the air? There's no way. So that's why you have to make sure everything come out 100% safe because there's no way you can correct it. And that's the difference between regular manufacturing to the airline industry. So from there, you'll find some different structure, but after all, it's all HACCP. HACCP, it's all HACCP. It just makes sure you comply with those basic requirements for food safety. And you might have some more, your GMP might be more strict because of the same things that we just mentioned. But otherwise, it's the same hassle. It's just that the culture must exist. Everybody must abide to doing the right thing, even no one is watching. When no one is watching, and I think that's where me and my team in the airline industry, we make sure that even the person cleaning the floor understand the importance of food safety, and they are willing to do it. They are willing to communicate any non-compliance because they all understand if they don't do that, there's a lot of people at risk in the air.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting case just because as a person that goes on a flight, you sort of just take these things for granted, right? This is how it is, and then yet behind the scenes, it has to be so such a part of the culture. So yeah, I love that, and thank you for sharing that. And something else I wanted to talk to you about is technology. I feel like the technology in this space is just exploded, and there's so much that we can use now and learn. And what have you seen in terms of emerging technologies that you're excited for, or that you've had a lot of success with?
I would say for the past 5 years, I've seen a lot of new technology, and it's good in a way because you have some QMS quality management system that used to be extremely expensive, but today we are able to find the same technology even better for a better price. Why? Because of there's a lot of competition. For us in the business industry, We want to have the best technology, but at the same time, the fact that it's a very tough industry, you want the best price as well. And I've seen that growth when it comes to demand, new technology. And with AI right now, I'm still learning, by the way, but I've seen AI doing some big things in some of the conference that I've been. I've seen some new brand out there that's doing big things. But for us, it's we don't like to jump into new things because after you build a system for 5, 10 years with a brand or a software, for you to break that to go somewhere else, sometimes the dollar value it's not the most important. It's all of those database you already established. And for us, we kind of value that a lot. We stick around with the one that we are using, but it's scary for them. It's scary and exciting for the amount of tech that I've seen out there right now for quality management system.
Yeah, no, I think like we're kind of at this point, especially with AI, where a lot of folks in the industry are like starting to apply it and starting to use it. And it's exciting, but also like, oh, where is this going to go in 5 years? Right. So yeah, there's a lot to keep up with. So, we kind of talked about technology and leadership, and I feel like this goes hand in hand. What do you do about training your team? How do you make sure that they are, following that same foundational food safety culture, but then also processes and technology, and like, how do you keep all of that straight in terms of training?
The expert on each area do their what they know best. That's my philosophy. Colleagues in the industry, they just dedicate themselves to do either consulting or training. And I respect that. And that's why we always make sure that our training depends on what it is. There's some training we can do internally. It's not because of lack of knowledge. We don't do all the training. The verbiage sometimes for someone that do training 365 days a year. So it's going to be different than me that focus more on operation, right? And that's why we have some affiliates, some partnership with some other entities where they provide training for us. We have our leaders and some of our employees on a schedule where they follow a training schedule like twice a year, some of them once a year. Definitely, we do internal and we also do with by third party.
So just a couple more questions for you. So looking ahead, maybe over the next, decade or so, what do you think that food safety professionals really need to do now? What are the skills that they're going to need in the future, and how can we get there?
I would say being a good diplomat. That's what I would say. Diplomacy for me, it's crucial for food safety profession because like we start the conversation by saying, as a cross-functional department, you must understand how to build relationship because it's crucial. For that, you will understand that it will help you balancing food safety goals, but also business goals. Most of the time, that's what we professionals in this industry, we don't have because you just say, hey, it's not, it didn't meet HACCP. I don't know anything else. You have to correct it. This, for the new generation, I would suggest let's change the narrative. Let's be more diplomatic with our decision. And that will help you build relationship. When you build relationship, that person you can talk about some other topic other than food safety will lean more to do what you ask them to do because they know they don't want to break that relationship they have built with you. And also, I would say on the same diplomatic part, there's something that called service level agreement, SLA. You as a food safety professionals, you must understand that very well. When you understand SLA, you will always ensure the other departments they get what they need from your department on time, and that will basically tell them, hey, you see how quick I give you what you need? I'm expecting the same thing in return. You don't have to say, but whenever they have to do something for you, either GMP, either whatever it could be, or supplier verification from procurement, they'll say, hey, hold on. Dom never delay me on anything that I need. I will make sure that I don't delay him on what he needs from me. And that exchange, as long as you know how to continuously use it in every other department, that will help you to succeed, but also meet the business goals as well.
Awesome. Nuggets of wisdom. I love it. We've been doing a little segment with some guests this year about kind of like the food industry predictions. What do you think is going to be the big trend or continue to be the big trend in 2025?
Or the big trend, I start saying it. There's a lot of companies that will start letting go a lot of high pay professionals. They're going to try to rely on AI, and that's going to cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah, there's a point where you can't replace expertise and you can't replace that human element. And AI is great, but it's not a direct one-to-one replacement for sure.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Because I think we use one of Trustwell service. I think it's Genesis. So if I take that as an example, right? I, Anyone could go on Chat GPT, say, "Hey, how to create a label?" Right? The service Genesis been offering for years. You can't replace that. You can't replace that because I always say, anyone can drive a car, but you will see a true driver when there's an emergence. Should you brake? Should you slow down? What to do? Should you go left? Should you go? And that's where you will feel, hey, I need that expertise on that person, and you would have to call that person back. And for me, based on some of the conversation I have in my networking event with some executive, I've heard a lot of this conversation. What do you think if we cut there, if we cut here, because we don't need that many person, because this can do it, or robot can do it. And the way the conversation going, I feel like there's a lot of trust that being put right now on new technology and AI. And I feel like that's going to be a big trend, which will affect a lot.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, using Genesis as an example, we're able to kind of layer in some of these AI elements. We've got Ask Reg, which is an AI assistant, that you can ask questions to, but it doesn't replace the quality database, the people that we have. You still have to have those foundations, and using AI is great, but you can't remove those foundations, right, and try to replace it. So, no, that's great to hear about your experience using Genesis. Um, so I think I just have one more question for you, which is really, looking back on your career, you've had, a really long career, several places that you've worked within this industry, and what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
You have to be always humble. That's the biggest lesson, because if you are humble, so you would never let a title get into your head, and you will always work with the person that you need the most. Not them need you the most, you need them the most, which is the people on the floor. Based on my experience, I've seen most of the time leaders, I wouldn't say leaders, but managers, they usually act like, I don't need you. And I feel like that's a behavior that affect a lot. And that's one of the lessons that I carry with me until today, to be always humble and most of the time influence without authority.
That's also great advice. I think we've had some awesome conversation today about what leaders can do within the industry, and you're such a great example of that. So, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we close out the interview?
No, I just want to thank you for putting together something like that for the food industry, which is well needed. Because one of the things that I always say, us food safety professionals, despite that we play a big role on everyone's life, because everybody eats, but they don't, most of the time, they don't even know if that career exists. They don't even know if there's a food safety department on that food they are consuming. And I feel like you are giving a voice for someone that can see your podcast and understand all of this truly exists. And they have a group of professionals that do not sleep, that work 24/7 to ensure the food that's going around the world can go there safe. And whoever eating it can eat it with confidence. They're not getting sick, because there's no limit when you produce something. It can go across the world, especially with JFSI right now. I feel more people should know about the existence of the food safety professionals and what they do behind the scene. Thank you for putting that together.
Oh, thank you for saying that. And I agree. I think everyone should know about how amazing so many of the people that I talk to are, especially, having the chance to talk to you today. So thank you so much. And thanks to our audience for joining us. And don't miss another episode. Go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Lydia. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for another bite-sized nugget of food tech talk, supply chain insights from farm to fork. Make sure to subscribe. And if you love the podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about TrustWell and request your free demo of our technology platform that connects food formulation, products, nutrition analysis, and compliant labeling with traceability, recall readiness, and supply chain transparency, please visit us at www.trustwell.com and click Get Started or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Thanks for listening.